Coming to you from the Radio for One studios in Franklin, Michigan. Welcome to the Detroit Cast.
Big fan.
A show not just free of charge, but free of FCC regulations.
Thank you for your support of the Detroit Cast.
Oh, there it is.
And without further delay, it's showtime. Please welcome the Detroit Cast. Here are your hosts, Mike and Jay.
Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome to the Detroit Cast, powered by DealsInTheD.com. Mike and Jay. Shalom, Biggie. Hello, Jay.
Hello, Mike.
Some reads out of the way early because we're gonna have to spend some time
with one Zack Greenburg,
yes,
the author of Three Kings.
That's the one. How did you know that? You're reading my mind today.
Yeah.
He's the book Three Kings. Diddy, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, Hip-Hop's Multibillion-Dollar Rise. Like this book a lot.
I did too.
Yeah. It's very cool. Different kind of take on what we normally get out of rock and extravagance books.
I would agree with you. He's a financial writer, so it's from a
Forbes
different
guy.
angle.
And what is he, a fucking Irish Jew?
I think so, yeah. O'Malley Greenburg. Hey, Hamlin Pubs, they're inviting you to their 5 Metro Detroit locations. Come enjoy Hamlin Pubs' great food, drinks, and atmosphere. Whether you're watching the game with your buddies, out for a meal with the family, or out for an evening with your girl, it's always a great time at their Rochester, Clarkston, Chesterfield, and 2 Shelby Township locations.
Did you say hi to Juan outside?
I did, yeah. Juan's out there cleaning things up.
It's about to
spring has sprung, Mike.
Spring is about to sprung.
Some look for the red-breasted robin.
Sure.
Others might look for the crocus to come birthing through the soil.
Sure.
Others look for Juan to start picking up sticks.
Here on Hersheyvale Drive, we look for Juan. That's our sign.
Hey, it's spring.
Spring is sprung. Look at Juan out there. Dude, over the winter, I saw him. You know, a lot of guys get out there and they shovel, right? People like to do that. And the snow comes and they shovel. He was shoveling the street.
Oh, Juan.
I mean, it's like, you know, plows are going to come through. You don't have to do that, Juan. He's a go-getter.
He's
real
something.
Go-getter, that Juan. Yeah, it was nice to see him out there this morning. Did you see Corey Feldman back in the news today?
I did not. What'd you do, man? I saw something, like one of his angels or something was violating an NDA. That's a non-disclosure agreement.
I've heard that, yeah.
Over the last month, just talking about he basically was like a slave driver.
Really?
On that stupid tour they had. Yeah, they were working like 15-hour days and stuff.
That was just so incredibly embarrassing. I think it was NBC, like the Today Show or something. He did a live performance, and it's like, he's Corey Feldman from, what was it, Lucas and Lost Boys, and
still though, who
Stand By Me. The point being, they're gonna let him have the time.
I don't know, man. That is not who greenlit that. Honestly, like you couldn't see that coming a mile away.
They need to kill time on the Today Show.
Yeah.
What else did they do?
Yeah, but I think, can you try to find video of that, E? It's been so long since we watched that.
Well, they could have a lady in high heels try to pull a truck.
There you go.
True.
There you go.
And not go anywhere.
Unsuccessfully, too, which was so
not a
embarrassing.
fucking inch. Okay, well, you know.
And then she got a goddamn check anyway from Walmart just because it was she tried.
God, poor ladies. Yeah, but this, I imagine that producers in the pre-show meetings and stuff.
I don't know if this even looks good on paper, Mike.
I know, but that's the point. So they've got their board, and it's like coming up next month. We got this, that, and it's like, guys, I was at a club over the weekend, and I saw an early thing of Corey Feldman's new band. It is such a fucking train wreck.
I don't think
we've got to put it on.
Today Show is in the business of just putting train wrecks on like that.
Oh, contraire, mon frere. I think you are wrong. I think they look at it and go, dude, this is going to be so bad, and it's got celebrity name attached to it, that it's going to be so bad that we're going to end up getting play on every other media outlet. And so I could see them being worth it. And so why don't we watch just a second of it here?
There he is, man, in his hoodie.
God.
So he's representing like evil. Look at him dance across. There's his angels in the background. Wow, this is drama.
Oh, so meta. It's just so meta, brah.
Poor kid. This poor guy. He should just be selling cars or something, you know?
Yeah.
But you can't because you're Corey Feldman.
Oh, it's just I don't know how to describe that other than sad.
Cringy.
Sad. It's sad is what it is. It's sad. And so I don't know which one of the angels back there is has broken the NDA, but apparently that's cool to do nowadays. You
Yeah.
can just smash NDAs. For the lay, that's a non-disclosure agreement.
As long as you're willing to pay the damages, contracts are made to be broken, Mike.
Well, Corey was the victim of an attempted homicide.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He was attacked while sitting in his car.
Don't take Feldman from us.
Stating that 3 men approached his vehicle. Now, there's a couple details in this that I'm just like, what? What? So 3 men attacked him, approached his vehicle, while his security detail, who's with him all the time, he's got security detail with him, because he's under attack all the time. Someone tried to run him over on the sidewalk, remember?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. His security detail was distracted with something, and that's the quote. And these 3 men opened the door and then stabbed him with something. And I thought that was a weird choice, too. I was stabbed with a knife. I was stabbed with a pencil, but stabbed me with something.
Quote, unquote, something.
Something. He also said...
Oh, is he going to, kind of play this game like, it could have been a syringe, and it could be like the government implanted something, a chip into me.
Maybe. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, he could be going that route, because this guy's totally mentally ill at this point, right?
Is that what you think? Because
Yeah,
that's
I
kind of
do.
the place
I
I'm
do.
coming full circle to, is like,
Yeah.
all right, dude, because he danced around the whole pedophilia, naming people for years.
I think I concluded that last time we kind of did a story on him.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, let's hear the pedophilia thing, and then he kept just drawing it
Dragging
out,
on
and
on.
teasing it. Like, okay, he's probably mentally ill.
And it didn't make sense because he was worried about being sued, right? That was the thing. Like, if I name these people and I don't have physical proof, now you're dealing with multi-gazillion-dollar defamation lawsuits potentially, and blah, 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 and his life is in danger. But at the time that we were like, dude, go for it. Go for it. Was when Harvey Weinstein started breaking, and people did not give a shit anymore at all. It was like, dude, no. No one's going to sue you and make that stick like they would have 10 years ago. It's just not going to happen.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. So he went on Twitter to describe his attack last night and said it was the work of the Wolf Pack. Yeah. A group
Jesus, can you bing that? Wolf Pack? Really?
Yeah, it was the work of the Wolf Pack.
From The Hangover, or
No, I don't think it's that. For those that don't know, the Wolf Pack is a group of powerful Hollywood players that he believes have been trying to kill him in order to get revenge after he named a couple of alleged pedophiles in the movie industry. And he really kind of bailed on that. The one guy he named was recent before he named him was recently arrested for pedophilia and was in jail.
Yeah.
And so there was like this history of like the guys you named, it wasn't like George Lucas or Spielberg or something, which was kind of what he was saying. Like, you wouldn't believe the names at the top of this
Well, I think
list.
at most, didn't he just dredge up this Corey Haim kind of stuff and kind of throw him out there as having been abused and again, kind of, pull his memory through the mud a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, a lot of that came out in his book, Choreography. You see what he did there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the one where it was like he was on the set of Lucas, I think. And
he claimed Chuck Sheen, right?
I think it was Chuck Sheen, but there was another guy too, Marty something. Chuck Sheen.
Wow, winning.
But he was like, because we used to do this a lot to each other when we were that age, 15, 16. You go up to your buddy and be like, dude, I'm rock right now for some reason. I'd like to get it on, or I guess. And then if you said that to me, I would go, well, dude, Marty is gay. You could go with him. And then single file, they go behind the trailer, and then it's just fucking getting it on.
Duh, winning.
So anyways, the Wolf Pack is...
So they tried to kill him, but couldn't. Why? I mean,
I don't know. Sending a message, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe this time was about sending a message. So anyways...
I predict we're going to hear some supposition by Mr. Feldman that something was implanted in him.
Boy, that would be good.
Yeah.
That would, I mean,
I think
that
that's
would
where
be...
this shit is going.
That would be a nice twist to the story that who could have seen it coming, But honestly, we should have seen it coming because it just makes sense. So Feldman transported himself to the hospital. So the cops get a call like 3.
So after he stabbed himself, he drove himself to the hospital?
Well, his security was occupied with something else at midnight when he was stabbed by 3 men, and they left, and the cops were called. They show up to the place that he lives in, Reseda, just before midnight, and he was at the residence suffering from a minor abdominal wound. He transported himself to the hospital, where just after 3 a.m. he posted to Twitter, "I'm in the hospital. I was attacked tonight. Man opened my car door and stabbed me with something. Please say prayers for us. Thank God it was only myself and my security in the car when 3 men approached while security was distracted. So he's in the car at midnight with his security. What was it? Oh, look at that bluebird. Like, does that seem...
It makes no sense. He has no security. He's
a guy...
He stabbed himself. He poked himself with something.
He wants to say, I'm okay. I have had mounting threats on all social media platforms by this vile wolf pack. And this, I'm sure, is a result of those negative actions. I have reason to believe it's all connected. Enough is enough. How sick are these people? In one of the snapshots, so then he's taking pictures of himself in the hospital. He's wearing the gown. And there's one where a doctor's like doing the dipstick thing on your tongue.
Tongue depressor.
Tongue depressor. But he's laying there in bed. But he didn't show us any of the wounds. Yeah.
Bullshit.
I know, man.
Dude should be, honestly, he's in this jail of Corey Feldman that a lot of these child actors get stuck in.
Just doesn't end well, though, does it?
It never does.
Does this story have is there a possible way that we circle out of this?
The only possible good conclusion would have been had he just went and sold cars or something and been like, I did that back in the day. I was an actor, but now I'm selling cars. Whatever.
There's a lot of guys too, and this happened to a lot of the like the 80s metal bands, like the glam metal bands, you know, guys from Winger and shit, where it's like, oh, Nirvana came on the scene. Gross, I know. But now you are beyond irrelevant. You're done. I don't care. I don't care how talented a player you are. Literally, your posters were ripped off walls and radio stations ignored you existed. So a lot of those guys, they went, all right, well, you know what? It took me a lifetime of practicing and playing to get good. I'm good at this, but no one wants to hear what I'm doing now. And so some of them moved to Utah and built a studio, and now they write jingles for Disney, and they have a happy life. They're not in the limelight. They make tons of money doing commercial stuff, doing movie stuff. And
the market changed, and they're finding their way in that.
They're finding their way instead of just kicking around Sunset for 20 years, just like,
hey, I'm still in this band. So look at my hair.
The Wolfpack's after me, man. You know, it's like Corey would have been better served. I get it. He can't go to Toyota and just start selling cars.
Why not?
He can't because we've seen it.
Being.
What's his name tried it? It didn't work at Saturn. You know, what you talking about, Willis? He tried to do that.
Arnold Drummond? I thought he was a security guard. Speaking of security.
And he was selling cars. Well, he might have been a security guard, too. How can what you talking about Willis be a security guard? Come on.
He was, man.
I know, but is that a joke hire? Is that like when David Lee Roth had all those midgets as security with him? See, you can't be a legit security guard.
Speaking of selling cars, spring is in the air, Mike, and that means it's truck month at Zott Ford and Holly. Check out these ridiculous deals on the best-selling trucks and SUVs in America. Lease a new 18 Ford Escape for just $147 a month, or lease a new loaded 18 Ford Explorer at $194 a month. Finally, the number one selling truck on the planet. Lease it, a new 18 Ford F-150 four-wheel drive Super Crew, as low as $138 a month. See details in their massive inventory at dealsinthed.com.
I do kind of feel bad for Corey, especially watching that dance when he comes out and he's hooded and all that. He had quite a little string there of some pretty hot chicks that he was banging through the years.
Despite the fact that he looks exactly like Grandpa Munster.
Yeah.
It always struck me like, wow, this kid's ugly, man. I can't believe he's pulling puss like this, but it just goes to show that money pulls puss.
Money does pull puss. And you pointed it out quite fairly, I think, recently about the fact that he's sans upper lip.
Yeah, it's the absence of the upper lip.
And that's
much
a problem.
like David Hogg.
Yeah.
You know, it's Hoggian.
It is.
In its structure or lack thereof.
It is Hoggian. But that doesn't help. But it didn't, at the time, Alyssa Milano, not a bad pull.
Did he really?
Yeah. Nicole Eggert, nothing to brag about.
This guy, man.
He's lacking a bottom
He's
lip.
vampiric.
Too. It's a zipper lip.
Yeah.
If you put a zipper on that, you know what I mean?
Yes. That's,
He was
odd looking, man.
He was cute in that little McDonald's commercial. Remember that when they played every year where he came downstairs and they would get the McDonald's coupons or whatever?
Yeah, wasn't it a Christmas themed one?
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of, kind of.
He was cute then. Alyssa Milano, Nicole Eggert, Holly Fields. Who's Holly Fields? I don't know that name. Victoria Beckham.
What?
Yes.
He was banging Victoria.
Yeah.
Posh Spice.
Yes. Is it Posh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, she went into a different stratosphere when she hooked up with David Beckham. You know, she was.
Yeah.
Like if you said, oh, he banged Baby Spice or whatever her name is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a Baby Spice?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Shitty
the blonde,
Spice. Yeah.
Isis, what are the name of the
No,
Spice Girls?
you're right. That's a good point because any of those spices wouldn't matter until you marry up to a Beckham.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're a mega. He could have been banging her when she was 15, though, before the Spice Girls were even a thing. Who knows?
No, he got them all early. Let's be honest. I mean, what has he banged in the last 30 years? Those are all very, very early. Well, he's Nicole Eggert, etc.
Yeah, he's got his wife now, but she's in one of the pictures in the hospital. That's just
very concerned.
Very concerned. Well, she's familiar with the Wolfpack.
Concerned on how we can turn this into more money. Like, where are we going with this? How do we do this?
I'm telling you, man, it's time to just pack things in, take the knowledge you've accrued, go to Utah. I don't know why I keep saying Utah. Go somewhere and just set up a nice place, have some kids, maybe a farm, maybe a pig farm.
Sure.
Something. I could see him being a nice pig farmer. And then we check in with him every 10 years. He's in his overalls with his pitchfork, and life's going grand.
I think that's a reasonable pivot.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of explain it. I wanted to get back to the earth, man.
Yeah, I needed to do something different. It was just, could I have made huge money in Hollywood? Yeah,
of course I could have.
It seems like a fraudulent scene. I needed to make a move.
Sort of a save face move.
There you go. And we'd all be willing to go. Yeah.
You know who kind of did that was
totally.
Rick Moranis from all those 80s movies. He kind of did that because I think his wife ended up getting cancer. And then
the thing about him, though, is he could have continued.
Yeah. No.
Doing
Okay.
His back wasn't against the wall like Feldman. Feldman has nothing.
Dude, there was an unlimited supply of Honey, I Shrunk the.
He did 2. He could have done it. Maybe 3.
We could still
4,
be doing
5.
No,
Honey,
there
can shrink anything.
You can shrink
fill
anything.
in the blank.
He was in Ghostbuster, the Ghostbusters movies too. You're right. He actually admits
Rick Moranis is a weirdo, though. That's a weird story because he bailed on everything. He's seen walking the streets of New York and won't talk to anybody, won't give interviews, just refuses to play that game at all.
I can respect that.
Yeah, good for him, I guess. But
well, like I said, I think it involved his wife having cancer though and dying. So then he took up taking care of the kids. I thought that's what I thought I read.
Yeah, maybe. I know that I don't remember the full story, but there's some truth to that.
Now's the time. Contact Realtor Doug Steiner. Spring is the perfect time to list your current home and to go looking for your dream home. It is, in fact, spring because Juan's out there picking up sticks.
Oh, hell yeah.
And that means real estate is moving. Contact Doug today, 248-765-1781. He and the team at Century 21 Campbell will work to get the absolute best deal on the sale and or purchase of your home. Doug's the man. He's easy to work with and a great friend of the show. Call Douglas today, 248-765-1781.
Can we circle back to David Hogg?
Sure.
Hitler Hogg for just a moment?
Yeah, there's been several memes created.
Yeah.
Along that thematic line.
Well, that look on his face when he was giving his speech and then the
arm in the air. Anytime anybody does the arm in the air now, it doesn't matter what side you're on, you're going to be declared Hitler, I guess.
Well, they did it to Trump like crazy. Yeah. Every time he waved at the crowd or something, was like, look at him with that Hitler salute. It's just so dumb. But Hogg had that menacing look on his face, and then that fist up, and everyone's cheering. And so Hitler Hogg was going around like crazy, and
everybody puts him into black and white too, right?
Some smart ass put him in a black and white video and overdubbed Hitler from one of his speeches in the 30s, and it looks like Hogg is delivering in German one of Hitler's speeches. Of course, ending with
is he banging the podium? And
I don't know. I mean, I sort of. It's funny, though, man. And people are all pissed off, like, oh, yeah, man, take this poor kid's speech from his March for Our Lives rally and these alt-right, blah. It's like, alt-right, this is just funny. I would have done this.
Hey, man, he jumped in the game,
Yeah, sorry. So you want to see a taste
he wants to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Werdet andere schon wieder beginnen, kommen und gehen und stets aufs Neue.
He turns around and points.
Glück und begeistert sein, denn die Idee und die Bewegung.
It's a good job.
It's an old reel kind of
that.
Imperfections in the film.
The bad cuts and
little hair on the film every now and then.
They've done a good job of his mouth too.
Yeah, dubbing it.
Yeah. The crowd cheering.
Oh boy. Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
Dude.
He's oh so hateable, isn't he?
Yeah.
Just the physical appearances.
Yeah. Which lip is he missing? Is he missing his top lip?
It's definitely the top lip, but there's not much of a bottom either.
If you're not watching our YouTube feed right now, you can go to YouTube and just search Hogg Hitler, the little dictator in the making. It's funny when I first popped this up. You know, YouTube will sometimes say, "Oh, there might be some titties in this video. You must be 21," and you just go, "Yeah, cool, I'm 21."
Yeah,
and you can be
you
3.
gave a warning on this one.
There's a warning on this one. Yeah.
Well, I wonder what the German translation really is. You know, could be some real hateful shit.
Yeah, probably something about blonde, blue eyes is the shit. Everyone else sucks.
Kill the Jews.
Yeah. So there's a viewer discretion warning on the Hitler comparison videos. It's flagged as containing material that some might find inappropriate or offensive.
It's triggering, Mike.
So they click. I understand that this might be a problem, and I might be upset about it. It's on me now. YouTube, you are relieved
Off the hook.
You're off the hook. I wish to proceed. I understand the warning. Thank you for that. I wish to proceed, and then you can watch it again. It's Hog Hitler, the little dictator in the making. And this, I don't know why this story warmed my heart a little bit, but it sort of did. Speaking of Hog, he has revealed yesterday that he's been rejected from the top 4 schools he chose for college.
Wow.
Yeah.
And those were?
UCLA. See, he wants to be in, you can tell where he wants to. Florida. He's outgrown Florida. There's bigger and better things for Hog. He needs to be in L.A.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
New York, L.A., whatever.
Yeah. So UCLA said, yeah, we're going to pass. You know, we see your Hog Hitler videos, and we're not interested. UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara, and UC Irvine all said, no. Fellow survivor Ryan Deitch was turned down by UCLA as well. Hog has a 4.2 GPA. It's not bad, right?
How exclusive is UCLA? I don't know how hard that is.
Jin went there.
Yeah, but...
I mean, I don't know what that means. I don't...
He's a smart guy, right? Works for Apple or some shit?
Not Apple, but yeah. No, Jin's very smart.
So why would you know? Why
Well,
is that
I was just
evidence
saying,
of it
like,
not being
yeah, I don't know
exclusive?
why I said that. Maybe I just wanted to drop that Jin went to UCLA. I don't know. That made no sense. I don't know why I said that.
They're called the Bruins.
I apologize.
Their mascot is the Bruins.
Absolutely.
They're blue and gold.
I think, well,
Relatively
It's a-
speaking, like is it like a Michigan? Probably not, right?
probably not, but yeah, I don't know. I think all those Cal schools are not terribly easy to get into, but I don't know how hard they are. Like Cal Berkeley's not easy, but UCLA I would think would be easier than some of those. I don't know. He still has Florida Atlantic University as an option, and Cal Poly, and Cal State.
I wonder what he wants
San
to do, because
Marcos.
other than UCLA, they all are, no offense to schools, I know it doesn't matter what sports doesn't really matter in real life. But
No, it doesn't matter at all.
I know, but
at
most people think about it though, dude.
like 3 or 4 people that are stars
people
on those
do.
teams.
Yes, people do.
A kid like David Hogg, you think he gives a fuck about the sports at the school he's going
think
to?
he does. I think
okay,
that- yeah.
we're reading minds.
Right.
Who knows?
Right,
But
I don't
I
know.
would- what
that
would
is
lead
that
you
is
to-
one of the dumbest things I've ever heard you say, Ian. I've heard some
disagree.
dumb things said out of.
I disagree.
That
I
mouth
do not believe
has
for
produced
a
some
second.
very dumb
I don't
things.
believe for a second that if someone has a choice of going to a Michigan State or Central and it's equal based on schooling, that sports would not come into play there. If it's equal based on what they want to do, I don't believe that for a second. But
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah,
Well, anyway, my point is I didn't know who these other.
I'm gonna
schools
I'm gonna
were.
side with Jay on this one because I don't know why you're under the impression that Hogg would give a fuck at all.
I mean, let's put it this way. I went to Western my freshman year because of the meal
I
plan,
don't think
so
you're
it's
a normal
possible.
person like
E,
that, though.
that supports what you're saying. The fact that I made it on a very trivial. Some would argue that's a trivial
I would argue
basis
against
for a
that,
decision.
dude. I thought that was a brilliant.
I
move.
went to Western because of the meal plan.
Because you
That's
could
it.
eat 24 hours a day, right?
I was into state. I was into Western. I was like, fuck, man. I can eat anytime, all day long at Western, or I'm limited. You know, back now, I guess you're not so limited, but back then you were. You know,
Yeah.
to 3 squares a day. It's like, dude, I gotta eat, man.
Yeah,
I gotta eat.
You gotta eat a lot.
So, Isis, I agree with you that there are some dumb bases for decisions. However,
Party schools? Don't you think someone would choose a party school?
yeah, but we're talking. Are we talking about a specific individual? What we know of him,
I don't know. I just
and,
didn't know
and,
these.
and it's not a ton, but what we know of him doesn't seem like the type of guy
Okay,
who's going to
maybe.
go.
That's true,
dude.
maybe.
I mean, the UCLA basketball team is better than.
True, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably true with him.
I don't see him painting his face and being at a Bruins football game.
I don't know. He's a
And
spotlight
moreover,
hog.
Isis, I'm going to go so far as to say most people do not make a decision based on fucking athletics. I think you live in a very limited world when you're talking about things like that. That is insanely narrow.
I guess I disagree. I don't
So-
think. Okay.
Hogg had some statements that where I was like, oh man, I kind of feel bad for this kid, what with the whole hog Hitler thing that he's going through and being rejected from his top 4 schools. And then quickly his comments made me go, oh yeah, that's right. He's a dick face. I don't care. And so when he said, yeah, it's been kind of annoying having to.
For a minute there, you felt bad for him.
Just a smidge. And then I was like, oh yeah, he's borderline manticitis victim. He's the lack of the upper lip.
He's going to parlay this into, I was rejected because I spoke out. And then he's going to, plenty of schools will take the kid. Plenty of schools will take him.
It's annoying to have to deal with this and everything else that's been going on. But at this point, we're changing the world. I was like, oh yeah, you're a dick face. Yeah, okay. We're too busy right now. It's hard to focus on that stuff. I'm not surprised at all, honestly. I think there's a lot of amazing people that don't get to go to college. Not only that do things like I do, but because their voices just aren't heard in the tsunami of people that apply every year in such an economic impacted school system, which we have here in America, where people have to go into massive amounts of debts. It's sad, but it's true. But right now, it's not a priority, given my ongoing activism. Honestly, it's disappointing, but at this point, we're changing the world. We're already changing the world. If colleges want to support us in that, great. But if they don't, it doesn't matter. We're still going to change the world.
You know what's going to be more disappointing for Mr. Hogg than not getting into college?
What's that?
The fact that there's going to be no change that comes out of this.
Yeah.
Zero change.
Yeah, he's 17. He didn't know that yet.
I know, but he's about to find out.
He's going to learn a really harsh lesson. It's too bad for him. I would feel bad for him, but he wouldn't care because he's too busy changing the world right now in his own mind.
Does seem odd though, man. 4.2 GPA, and clearly he has extracurricular activities. Like, it seems odd.
You would think.
Again, I don't know UCLA, just like you didn't know whether they would be. But I don't know. It seems odd to me. He wouldn't have a good chance at some of this shit.
I would think UCLA would be like getting
he's on the
Michigan
left.
State. I think USC would be harder.
We don't know. We're speculating.
But he's on the left side too. It's not like
speculation right now.
We're
gonna try to draw conclusions
I know
from complete and utter speculation. I have no idea.
USC is like Michigan, and yes.
And then UCLA is like Michigan State.
I thought so.
I mean, what does that mean? And why didn't you say that 10 minutes ago when we brought it up?
We're
speculating, Mike. We have no idea. There could be any number of reasons why he didn't.
I know getting into USC is harder than UCLA.
The bottom line in this story is he's going to tweak it into I got denied because I'm speaking out.
Yeah. Poor guy.
But it seems odd because he's speaking out on the side that you think the colleges would accept. It's not like he's a right guy. That's what seems crazy to me, I guess. But.
Yeah. I would think with a 1.3 grade point average, it would be like athletics. With a 1.3 and his tremendous activism, they would welcome him with open arms. He could go to Harvard if he wanted. Anyway, we've got to.
By the way, Mike, Michigan State is not that easy to get into.
I didn't say it was easy to get into.
Well, you know. USC is like Michigan, and then UCLA is like as if it's like this lower rung.
No.
By the way,
is what's harder to get into, Michigan State or Michigan?
Michigan.
That's all I was saying. I wasn't saying.
I read into that.
No. Well,
I see what you're doing.
Don't be sensitive. I didn't get into either. How about that? I couldn't go to either. Neither one of them would even look at me.
Why you would even comment on it?
I couldn't even get into Western.
Why are you throwing barbs at Michigan State?
I'm not throwing barbs. All I was saying is Michigan's harder to get into than Michigan State. Would you agree?
Generally.
Do you want to loosen things up? You ready for our interview, Jay?
Yeah. Let's talk to Zack Greenburg.
Yeah. The book is Three Kings: Diddy, Dr. Dre, and Jay-Z. It really is remarkable how much money these guys have made from side, projects. And, you think of, what's his name, too? 50 Cent with the vitamin water. Part of this book I was reading, man, that Coca-Cola bought that for like $4 billion. That's bigger than the Apple Beats deal.
Yeah, and I think it originated out of a Coca-Cola product, didn't it? Or Powerade, right? It came out of Powerade. And then
is that what it was?
To a water company, and then went vitamin water, and they parlayed it into quite a sale. And that's the point of this book, is how these guys took hip-hop and their reputations therein and their status therein and parlayed themselves into business moguls, which is beyond comprehension in terms of what they could have earned as just simple musicians.
Totally. And Zack Greenburg, we'll dial him up right now. He's also the senior editor of media and entertainment at Forbes. It's got to be a fun gig. We'll ask him about that as well. So if you're ready, let's dial him up.
Hey, this is Zack.
Hey, Zach, how are you? It's Mike and Jay.
Hey, Zach.
All right. You guys ready to roll?
Yeah, for sure. We wanted some clarification on the name first, though. Zach O'Malley Greenburg.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, is that so? Are you an Irish Jew? Is that what it is?
I sure am.
Yeah.
Is that common or rare? It seems like it'd be rare.
It's more common than you would think. Actually,
Yeah.
Dublin had a Jewish mayor at one point. And I encounter, but usually it's like somebody, it's a Jewish person and a Irish person getting married, and then like their kids are
Gotcha.
kind of.
Aren't you using ZOG to your benefit though somehow? Don't you call it your Zog or something? Your daily musings.
I should maybe. I don't know.
I thought I saw. I thought I saw something
Zog
like
blog.
that. Yeah, Zog blog.
Yeah,
is my
Zog
handle.
blog.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good. Well, that's not why we wanted to talk to you, Zach. Believe it or not, we've really enjoyed your book, man. Three Kings: Diddy, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, and hip hop's multi-billion-dollar rise. I hope it's doing well for you.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Well, you seem like the perfect guy to do this. Is your position in life, senior editor of media and entertainment at Forbes. That sounds like a very interesting gig. What does that entail exactly?
Yeah, well, basically, I run all of our earnings lists and our wealth lists for entertainers. So that involves, the Celebrity 100, which is our accounting of the 100 highest paid entertainers every year. Then I do our breakdown specifically in the music area. So I'll do the hip hop list, I'll do the country list, the EDM list, and so on. And, really try to give everybody a picture of who's banking the most every year.
That is a challenge. I mean, we often refer to that very list.
How accurate is it?
Yeah. I mean,
it's as accurate as it gets. I mean, it's we put a lot of time and energy into those numbers. So, a lot of people see, there are other numbers floating around the internet, but you get the feeling that it's just, some guy in his basement. We're out there, we're calling sources, we're going through public data, we're going through filings, and, we have private databases that we get into where we can track the average gross of a musician, for example, or the total album equivalent, streams and album sales combined for musical artists. We look at, box office for actors. We look at side business ventures. We're actually out there, calling people who are experts in the specific fields that people have private companies. So, if Diddy has a tequila brand, which, he does, we're out there calling up the beverage analysts and trying to put a value on that company, and then, and kind of applying it to his numbers. So,
Yeah. So is that like a strong finance background or entertainment or both? Is it like I'm a finance nerd, but I'm handling the entertainment wing of this venture?
Well, it's really a lot of learning on the job because there's not really any other sort of comparable thing to train for. So, I mean, you can be an econ major in college and understand, macro, micro econ, but that doesn't really tell you, for example, what percentage of gross a musician would take home from a concert, or, how it would differ from country to EDM to a big pop show. So that's kind of on the job training, institutional knowledge and stuff that we just have to kind of pass down from one person to the next who has this job at Forbes.
Well, this is a fascinating way of looking at these guys because we read a lot of books by entertainers or about entertainers, and you get the behind-the-scenes stories about concerts and tours and so forth. To me, to hear what the nuts and bolts are behind various deals is just so fascinating. So this is a different kind of book, I think, than we've ever had.
Yeah.
But it hits the history of hip-hop and how these three kings turned it into one of the world's most influential and lucrative cultural movements, really a cultural phenomenon. How long had you been working on this?
The book itself, I've spent pretty much the last 2 years on, but, overall, and I'd say my entire professional career has been leading up to this. So, a decade at Forbes covering this business. It's been a decade since I started doing the hip hop earnings package back in 2007. So, all of that, all those investigations and interviews and all that kind of informs the the reporting of the book.
Yeah, I mean, you did a ton of research on this thing. I don't know, maybe an eighth of the book presently is devoted to footnotes and endnotes and so forth, and explaining where you got all these sources. So a lot of work went into this, and
yeah, it's crazy. But I'm wondering with Diddy especially. I remember you guys came out with your Forbes list, I don't know, 2 years ago maybe, and I was absolutely gobsmacked to see him topping the list with like 800 million. It seemed like I hadn't really heard or seen from Diddy publicly all that much. Not that I wasn't paying that much attention, but it wasn't like he was top of mind on the charts or in movies or TV. And here it is, like he's earned more than anybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, both in terms of earnings and until recently in terms of total wealth, Diddy is usually number one. So Jay-Z just overtook Jay-Z in terms of net worth this year. So, there's two different things we look at in Forbes. There's the earnings and there's the net worth. The earnings are on an annual basis, so that could be spiked by a big sale of something or a big tour. And then the net worth is where we go and we add up all of the sort of career earnings we take out for spending and taxes and so forth. And then we add up all the value of the assets on paper. So, with Diddy, there's his arrangement with Ciroc is a huge chunk of that. Deleon Tequila, as I mentioned, Revolt TV, these are all things that you can put a number on. And although, it may not be the same as the Puff Daddy and the Family days, he's certainly, when you add it all up, it's quite an empire.
It's
and
remarkable
that he built off of the music. Yeah.
Yeah, you think about it. He hasn't been musically relevant for probably 15 years. Is that fair? But here he is.
Yeah, that's fair.
But here he is. He's grown into
dominant
this business mogul.
Even if you think about Dr. Dre, he's only put out 3 solo studio albums during his entire career. So, he just also happened to have one really, really big hit with Beats. So that kind of makes up for a lot of lost time.
Yeah, but he had success with Snoop and Warren G in those days, and then Eminem exploded. I mean, he had
50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I found Diddy to be the most fascinating part of the book. And I wonder if maybe you don't know, but where a guy like that gets such an amazing set of confidence. Like he's a kid, he's 23 years old or something, and he's going to this company, and he's like, I remember being 23 in a job, and it was like, yes sir, no sir, whatever you say, boss, sign here, and he's in there just like, yeah, I'm gonna need a ton of money. And when you think you've hit that, when you think you've hit that money amount, you haven't. And then when you think you've hit the money amount again, we're going to need some whipped cream and cherry on top. And it's like,
that's one of my favorite quotes in the book.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So, with the book, I think one of the main things is I tried to present a blueprint for how I'd say the book is 3 things, right? It's a history of hip hop. It's a biography of each of the 3 guys. And it's this blueprint. It's a blueprint of how 3 different entrepreneurs, very different, despite the fact that they all have the job description hip hop mogul, managed to get to this sort of near billionaire territory. And, Diddy is one path, right? Diddy is the charisma junkie. He's the consummate salesman. He's in your face all the time. He's got that bravado. Dre, on the other end of the spectrum, is actually very quiet, very reserved, introverted, and Jay-Z somewhere in the middle. But, the idea was to kind of show these examples, and maybe if you as a entrepreneur, as a professional, have some of those qualities, you could kind of like follow that path. So for Diddy, you kind of can't teach that kind of charisma, I think. But there are people who are just magnetic, and if you have that, then I think it's best to sort of follow that Diddy salesman path. But one of the things about Diddy is that no matter how big he got, he still had that attention to detail, that focus on the user experience. So one of the things, you ask, where did it start? I mean,
early.
I guess the confidence started early, but so did this attention to detail. So, over the years, talking to him for some of my Forbes stories, he always would tell me about how when he was a little kid, he had 4 paper routes because, Diddy, 1 is not enough. But one of the reasons he was able to get so many is that instead of just going and throwing that paper willy-nilly into the yard, he would go up and actually, to each of his customers, he'd open the screen door and put the paper in between the screen door and the front door. Oh. And the idea being that, you just remove that one step, that extra effort.
Yeah.
And, customers really respond to that all the way through to today, where he'll actually go into bars and clubs and say, hey, why is the Ciroc vodka on the bottom shelf? It should be on the top shelf.
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I met Diddy once, and I was working at a rock radio station, and whatever year it was, he came out with the single, the tribute to Notorious B.I.G., and he had the Police song, Every Breath You Take. And he came in, it was after I did the morning show. It was after the morning show, but me and another producer were still there. And all of a sudden, Diddy walks into our office, like no guards with him, nobody. He's just in a T-shirt. He's got his big diamond encrusted cross on, and he's like, "Hey man, do you guys have a few minutes?" And I'm like, "Puff Daddy just walked into my office. Sure, man, come on in." And it's like, he didn't send an A&R rep. He didn't send. He didn't send, just mail a case of them to the station like most people. He physically, personally came in and thought, well, it's got crossover appeal because it's got the Police as a backtrack. And so he just stopped by with it in hand. He's like, would you guys mind listening to this and tell me what you think? And so we hung with him for 20 minutes. He couldn't have been nicer. And it was like, I've never seen any artist do that, ever.
Yeah.
Especially at his level. I mean, he was a giant then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, another thing about Diddy is he just doesn't sleep. That's one of the things in interviewing people who spend time with him or work with him. He's up until, he's out at the club getting paid for appearances, maybe getting on the microphone. But he's doing market research, right, about Ciroc, about music, about whatever it is. He stays out until 4 a.m, and then he gets up at 8 or 9 and he works out, he goes to his meetings. He's constantly flying around the country. He has his whole work set up on his jet. It's a nonstop operation. And if you think about, man, I need probably 7 hours of sleep to function like a human being. And Diddy can work on half of that. The amount of time that you accrue that you can apply to other ventures just kind of adds up.
Hey, one of the things you mentioned, Zach, is that you go through the history of hip hop, which I think is really helpful to this, because what you're doing, as you said, is you're building a blueprint for each of these guys' success. And one of the influential characters that you see coming up time and time again is Russell Simmons. With Def Jam and Fat Farm, his involvement in those. Is it possible to overstate the importance that Russell Simmons played insofar as he created an early business mogul model for these guys?
Yeah, Russell Simmons is a really complicated figure. Especially you can't talk about Russell Simmons now without talking about the allegations of rape that have been levied against him. Which he denies, but I mean,
I love how you had to preface that every time you brought him up too. Like, hey, by the way,
Paren, right?
Paren, yeah,
and you do, and there's now, there's a giant asterisk in front of him now. So you can't really mention Russell Simmons without mentioning that, but you also can't really mention the history of the business of hip hop without mentioning Russell Simmons. And like you say, he was really the first to provide the business blueprint with Def Jam, creating his own label, creating his own clothing line and Fat Farm, and just sort of a lot of the ideas, that Jay-Z, Diddy, and Dr. Dre had. I mean, he laid that blueprint for them. But the thing that, and in fact directly mentored Jay-Z especially.
Yeah, that was interesting.
But the thing that he couldn't do that they can do. I mean, Russell Simmons is a celebrity, but he's never as big as these three guys are now, and he doesn't have the platform of music to be putting out where he can, for example, rap about products that he owns or has a financial interest in. Mm-hmm. So, for Jay-Z in particular, that's been a real driving force. Jay-Z's the most prolific of the three. Really early on in his career, right after his first album, he was wearing a lot of Iceberg, which is a European sportswear designer. And so he went and tried to get some kind of endorsement deal, and they barely even wanted to give him free clothes. So that was the genesis of him starting his own clothing line in the mid 90s, Rockaware. And, that was a case of he was on Def Jam. And so he went to Russell Simmons and, went for advice. And that was kind of part of the way he was able to build up his brand. But, suddenly, whenever he was going to rap about Iceberg, he would rap about Rockaware. And I think that's been a philosophy of his, why rap about somebody else's brand, enriching them when I could have my own and just be giving myself free advertising.
Yeah, these guys masterfully figured out that if we're going to be players on the scene, why not pick up multiple revenue streams?
Yeah.
Everything from fashion to the alcohol brands that they have to Jay-Z's involvement in Live Nation, and now their present involvement in the streaming aspects of things. I mean, it's just absolutely genius.
Well, it's funny too, Jay, because we have often talked about, like, what does a rapper do when he gets older? Like, if you like, it's one thing for Paul McCartney to go up on stage and sing Penny Lane with an audience, but when you look at rap lyrics, Jay-Z at 70 can't be going, I got 99 problems and a bitch ain't one. Just doesn't feel like it would work. So
well, but then again, you have 70 and 80-year-old rockers up there now, talking about, sex and drugs, and you kind of maybe get the impression that they're not doing either of those things as much as they were in their 20s.
That's true, but isn't hip hop different? I mean, we've talked about this on our show a lot with Eminem with respect to what and he's said openly, he's questioned many times, and particularly his latest record, about whether he can still stay relevant. And as Mike just alluded to, I mean, we were really wondering, like, this is kind of new territory. He's blazing the trail of an older hip hop artist, and whether this is just a young man's game, or whether he can continue this into his 50s, 60s, 70s, like the McCartneys, etc.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't, right? I think if you look at somebody like Paul McCartney, he's tremendously successful on the road, but his albums don't sell obviously anywhere near what they did, the Beatles. I mean, come on. But even a band like U2, their albums do not have the same impact that they did many years ago in terms of sales, but they can still go out on the road, Paul McCartney, U2, and attract probably a larger crowd than just about anybody else in the world. So, I think you don't really need to be putting out new music if you have such an extensive catalog. And, at some point, I think with a lot of classic rockers, it starts to be like, hey, just play the hits. We don't want to hear your new stuff that we have no connection to. I think Jay-Z totally understands that. I mean, the first thing he said when he signed his Live Nation deal was, I've become the Rolling Stones of hip hop. And, the Rolling Stones, I think really perhaps more than any of the legacy acts understand that they don't need to be putting out new music. I mean, that people don't really care that much, and they just want to hear the hits. So, but when you have that many hits, it's fine. So I think the model is really more, develop that catalog of hits and then keep touring it. Or marry Beyonce and just go out on tour with her.
That's true. I think I will agree to disagree on this. I think it's fun. It's a fundamentally different experience. A hip hop show and a rock show. I think the lack of melody really plays a part. That worms your way into your brain, and you think, "Oh, Penny Lane." Whereas it's just not there.
Like, it works. Lose Yourself, Eminem could do Lose Yourself at 70. That will always work in a stadium. But I don't know that Criminal or Bitch will.
Moreover, there's an attitude to it. There's a prowl, that just isn't there when you're 70. But whatever.
Spinning back to Russell Simmons, the first 7-figure commercial deal in hip hop was Run DMC and Adidas. Was he part of that deal too?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So this is really kind of a monumental moment in the history of the business of hip hop. So in the mid 80s, Run DMC had this song, My Adidas. It was this uncompensated sort of innocent ode to shell-toed sneakers. And, but Russell Simmons knew the potential that it had. He was managing them at the time. And so he invited executives from Germany, from Adidas, to come to the show at Madison Square Garden. And when the time came for the group to play My Adidas, they told the audience, take off your Adidas and wave them in the air. and which they did, and then they played My Adidas,
Genius.
and meanwhile
Genius.
these executives are sitting up there, seeing 15,000 people taking off their Adidas. I mean, it's the best product placement of all time, right? I mean, how can you top that?
It's unreal.
And so they signed Run DMC to this $1 million sneaker deal that that Russell Simmons was kind of orchestrating. So that really opened the door down the line for acts like Jay-Z. And I mean, mainly Jay-Z was the one with the sneaker. Jay-Z and 50 Cent were sort of the big sneaker guys. Ironically, Dr. Dre wanted to do a sneaker, and he told the Interscope Records chief Jimmy Iovine this, and Jimmy said, "Forget sneakers, let's sell speakers."
Yeah.
And that was how Beats was born. But we can
get
into that
before
in a
we
minute.
dig into detail on that, because that is incredibly fascinating, that whole deal. I want to, if you could, just hit one more really prominent rap iconic figure. In covering the history of hip hop, you obviously cover the East Coast West Coast feud of the 90s, and rightfully so. You document Suge Knight and his bullying and intimidation, etc. Was Suge's presence at Death Row and his status as a central player in the rap business in any way helpful to how the Three Kings developed, or was Suge and his antics just a completely tragic distraction to their progress?
I think overall, Suge Knight was a negative for hip hop, and was a distraction, and I think he derailed a lot of the sort of the movement toward mainstream commercial appeal that hip hop had in terms of being involved with brands. Although, I think the violence and the controversy increased mainstream interest in the music. It was sort of not all of the publicity was positive. I do think it delayed hip hop's arrival in the mainstream, sort of brand space. But I mean, specifically with Dr. Dre, Suge Knight was useful for a time. I mean, he helped get him out of his previous record deal. He certainly helped create this Death Row ethos that built up a certain subgenre of hip hop, and he really he championed Tupac Shakur at a time when a lot of people were kind of down on him, and I think Tupac came to see him as a protector during a period where he felt like the world was kind of out to get him.
Yeah,
And
well, reading your book, Zach. This is the first time I got the same feeling as Jay. Like, was this guy worth anything to these guys? Because we know the stories of you've heard the Vanilla Ice thing and
Holding them over the balcony.
Yeah, you've heard all those things, but it seems like and I think it was Jerry Heller who said these guys weren't gangsters. These guys were play gangsters. They were artists. Puff was middle class. Dre was a nerd. Biggie was a mama's boy. Tupac was a very, very smart, scholarly kid. Poet. And it seems like every time there was an issue that came up, and let's be honest, there were some real tragedies that came up in those East Coast, West Coast things. Suge Knight seemed to be at the center of all of it always.
He did. And, I mean, an interesting thing that I found in researching the book, though, was some people who didn't even feel that Suge was really a true gangster. And that, the only thing that Suge responded to was other real gangsters kind of checking him in line, and, people standing up to him. And there are a few instances in the book where you see people standing up to him and Suge kind of saying, okay, I respect that, I'm gonna back up. But I think what Suge realized is exactly that the hip hop world was kind of full of, a lot of people who weren't necessarily what they portrayed themselves to be. And there was sort of this almost arms race in terms of image and toughness. And a lot of the guys started, kind of turning into the characters they were portraying. So, I think it was, if anything, more Suge kind of like, filling a power vacuum and realizing he could get away with throwing his weight around. And then a tragedy kind of ensued. But I think as these guys developed, kind of started playing these characters that, really kind of method acting, they would start to surround themselves with actual gangsters. And I think when that happened, that was where a lot of the violence occurred.
Well, he did serve his purpose, Suge Knight, and I love the story. It's one of my favorite songs ever, is California Love. And Suge and Jimmy Iovine bail Tupac out of jail, and the story that you tell in here, I don't know if you want to tell it now, about him flying they just fly in private out to California to Dre's studio.
Yeah, he gets this on this jet from New York to California, from right out of jail, and he basically goes right into the studio and records. And he'd been thinking about all these songs in prison and so on. And Dre and Tupac are in the studio, and Tupac immediately spits that verse of California Love.
Out on
and then
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it's done, he goes back and they want to double it, to give that like extra punch, and he spits it verbatim in
same cadence.
The same, like immediately after that, perfectly. And just kind of Dre's like, holy cow, this is,
that's unbelievable. If you've ever been in a studio and tried to do overdubs or something, the fact that with nothing written down, he hears just the basic track that Dre's working on for California Love. He's like, got it. Jumps in, nails this, and then the identical cadence without any. That's fucking incredible.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's the craziest thing ever.
I mean, it's pretty wild. I mean, Tupac was obviously an incredible talent, and you really wonder what he would have grown into. I mean, he could have been. I don't know. I mean, he could have been an actor. He could have taken the Ice Cube path or the Will Smith path. He could have been a politician. He could have been a leader. I think there would have been a lot of options, but he was, it's kind of hard to imagine. I mean, Tupac and Biggie, but they were only in their 24, 25 when they got killed. So it just, we never really got to see, unfortunately, what they could become.
What is your opinion? Do you think Pac was killed because of the fight he got into with the gang member that night in the hotel?
Well, I lay it out in the book, and I don't want to, accuse anybody of murder, I guess. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that points to the fight that he and Suge got into with some Crips in the casino before this Mike Tyson fight. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there he is in that car with Suge, and stuck in traffic, and somehow Tupac takes all those shots, and Suge, I think he was maybe grazed or something by a bullet, but that to me is, I mean, if you're somebody who wants to kill Tupac, why don't you also try to kill Suge Knight? That's, and it's not like it would have been hard. So
it's a weird one. It's a weird one.
That's why I continue to wonder.
Zack, the Beats deal. It's the deal that's probably the centerpiece to this whole book, and it's absolutely fascinating. Of course, the May 2014 Apple purchase of Beats for $3.2 billion, which put Dre into the billionaire status. Fascinating deal. Tell us, there I guess is some discrepancy on who had the idea. Was it the Monster Cable guy, Noel Lee? Was it Iovine and Dre? Tell us how that whole Beats idea came to be.
Yeah, so, to kind of recap from earlier, Jay-Z and Jimmy Iovine are walking down the beach in Malibu, and Dre says to Jimmy, I've got a sneaker deal on the table, and Jimmy says, F sneakers, let's make speakers. Then they go to Noel Lee, they team up with Monster Cable as the manufacturer, and they create these very bass heavy headphones that we know today as Beats. And from the get-go, though, that they have this philosophy. It's not just about the headphones. It's about the fashion. And in fact, I interviewed the CEO of Best Buy at the time. I also interviewed Noel Lee, the head of Monster. And, basically what they did is they went to the head of Best Buy and they said, I mean, this is, 2008, 2009, the depths of the Great Recession. And they said, when your salespeople are trying to convince the kid with $300 in his pocket to buy these headphones, you have to say, like, you're not competing against Bose or Sennheiser or other headphones. You're competing against Air Jordan, right? That kid's going to either buy these headphones or he's going to buy the Jordans.
Totally.
And you have to set up the decision as such. And that's exactly what they did. And it's the reason why they were able to not just grow the product, but grow the category. And they actually, you know, I think far from destroying Bose or Sennheiser, they just kind of raised the profile of, you know, really expensive headphones to where it's not just audiophiles, but it's, you know, people wanting to make a fashion statement or people wanting to say, oh, you know, I'm a music connoisseur of some kind, or, you know, I want to pay a lot of money for my audio experience.
Yeah.
Whether it's actually better or not is another question, but
it blew up a whole industry. That industry just didn't exist before that.
It was earbuds. Like you said,
it was.
Apple was asking you to spend $400 on an iPad and giving you $1 earbuds.
Yeah, and that was actually part of the impetus for Jimmy and Dre to start it. I mean, Dre, who's this great perfectionist, spends all this time tinkering in the studio, and he's like, you know, whatever I do, you're still listening to my music on these terrible earbuds and you're not getting the full experience. So there was an authenticity to what he was trying to do that I think really resonated with customers.
Hey, how close did the social media post of Dre's celebration with Tyrese come to blowing the deal with Apple? Because I even suggested in the Defiant Ones, the HBO documentary, that it was very tenuous. But what did your research disclose?
Yeah, the same. I mean, everybody who I talked to said, you know, that was kind of the moment where Tim Cook at Apple was kind of like, oh boy, what have I gotten myself into? And Apple is a pretty secretive company for all their, you know, kumbaya marketing. Certainly from a PR standpoint, they're very, very close-lipped. And, you know, to have something like that happen where, I mean, this was the biggest acquisition that Apple had ever made. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and you have this sort of like drunken party.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah. Look who's in the Billionaires Club. I think Dre said that was the most embarrassing thing in his life. Like that was.
I think he said it was one of the 3 most embarrassing moments of his life. He didn't say what the other 2 were.
Yeah, maybe the times.
I mean, Dre also has a checkered past. He's you know,
Barnes,
some domestic violence and things like that. So you know, he's issued apologies, and he seems to have been forgiven more than, you know, let's say Russell Simmons. Because a lot of this stuff happened a long time ago, and he apologized. He kind of was maybe more open about it. I don't know, but you know, he's never been accused of you know, sexual assault or rape or anything like that.
Yeah. Did Beats really almost go bankrupt before the Apple deal landed?
Yeah, it did, and that was one of the revelations in the book. I mean, you know, I think a lot of people don't really fully understand just how perilous things got. You know, Beats was really teetering on the verge of running out of money right before they got that big cash infusion from Carlyle Group, big private equity group, that they got a little less than a year before the Apple deal. So that really kind of bailed them out and allowed them, you know, to keep expanding up to the point where Apple came in. So, you know, I mean, I think to an extent that's also maybe the case more often than people realize with any private company, with any startup. You know, it's a matter of you're trying to expand as fast as possible. And, you know, so you want to be deploying all your money into the business, but you know, if you're not careful, you can very easily run out of money, and they almost did there. So,
and part of that had to do with the carving out of Noel Lee and Monster Cable and going about their manufacturing on their own. And you did a masterful job of kind of detailing that. It's a really fascinating part of the book. It really is.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of a poignant story because, you know, Noel Lee is this kind of eccentric character, you know, definitely a good guy. You know, he worked at a defense lab when he was growing up and early in his career, and he was exposed to chemicals that gave him this rare nerve disorder. So he goes around on a Segway because he doesn't want to be in a wheelchair. You know, like a Segway with gold flame details. You know, he's a very sharp guy, and you know, but there was sort of an almost Shakespearean element to it where, like, in the deal that really Monster as an entity signed with Dre and Beats and Jimmy, you know, there was this provision, this kind of out clause, and some people close to the deal say that it was Noel's son who signed off on this, and that Beats was able to later exploit this clause that had been done sort of, this paperwork that had been signed sort of naively to get out of the deal instead of, continuing that binding relationship. But, Noel actually ended up selling his, I think it was 3 to 5% that he owned of Beats back to Jimmy, Dre, and the other investors, not too long before the Apple deal, because he thought that they had no exit strategy. He thought they were going to be screwed without a manufacturer like Monster on board. So, he lost out on tens of millions of dollars because of that.
Well, you also detail how you believe it was a deal for Beats headphones, but just as much for Dre and Iovine to remain on as executive managers and help shepherd in Beats Music and Apple Music, the streaming service. You talk about how this probably doesn't happen under Steve Jobs because he doesn't believe in streaming.
Yeah, no, I talked to Troy Carter, who used to manage Lady Gaga and is one of the sort of forward-thinking artist managers and business people in the music industry, now works at Spotify, and is a really prominent venture capitalist too, kind of straddling the line between Hollywood and Silicon Valley. And he actually had a lot of talks with Steve Jobs before he died. And Jobs really felt that, people wanted to own their music and streaming was never going to be a thing. So,
Oof.
But Jobs also believed in the marketing and the panache in all of that I think Dre and Jimmy ultimately brought to the table. And, was that headphones business worth $3 billion, which is what Apple eventually paid? I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that the headphones business is worth $3 billion. But, and in fact, some analysts and private company analysts said as much, and that's in the book. But, yeah, what else was there? There was bringing these two guys on board. Dre, there's just that sort of priceless cool factor.
Yep.
And Jimmy, in terms of his entertainment connections, somebody who could really, take the skeleton that they had built there with Beats Music and turn it into Apple Music. Because don't forget, at the time, Apple, they didn't, under Steve Jobs, they didn't fully embrace streaming. They still had the, iTunes and
right.
were really more focused on downloads. And, this was really what formed the framework for Apple Music, which is now, second to Spotify in the US in terms of streaming services.
Right. Well, Will.i.am, who was also an early investor in Beats, I think summed it up pretty well and kind of like sums up the theme of the Three Kings really well when he said this deal was not just good for the company, it was good for the culture. He said, you have to look at it like kids in the inner city not only dream about being athletes and musicians, but now entrepreneurs and bringers of new, disruptive, cool lifestyle products. A whole new spirit just popped from this one announcement.
That's right. And, and it's even bigger than rap or sports. I mean, when do you see, another rapper or an athlete, being involved in a $3 billion deal? I mean, it's outrageously huge. So, what a cool thing to be able to inspire kids to get into electronics, audio, or, a lot of the other things that Beats touches. I mean, from, cars to fashion, to computers. I mean, there was a Beats branded, I rented a car in LA a few months ago, and it was this Chrysler 300 with the Beats branded, nice. Sound system and everything, and the subwoofer in the back. And, so there's a lot of different things that this touches that could really, I think, be inspirational to some kids.
So Zach, what do you think it is when you look at the overall of the Three Kings? We've seen so many athletes and so many musicians who have tried to open restaurants. They've opened car dealerships and car washes. They've started video games, and most of them go belly up. And some of these guys have lost everything. And then you look at these guys and you read this book and it's like every single thing they touch explodes. Are they smarter than everybody? Are they luckier than everybody?
They missed on some too. Boost Mobile. I bet they wish they had that.
And thank you for bringing that up. That's a key one. Yeah. Well, I think they're smarter than everybody and they're luckier than everybody, but they certainly have their share of failures. I think they're just very good at not broadcasting them, Yeah. Jay-Z has a ton of failures in his closet that he just sort of, moves on from. I mean, there was going to be a Jay-Z Facebook game that they made this whole big thing about, and that went belly up very quickly. There was going to be, I mean, there's one of my favorite parts of the book is talking about this clothing line that Dr. Dre sort of tried to start with his mom, and she really wanted to design this like loungewear line for couples at home, for like middle-aged couples at home.
What was the slogan again?
It was called the
not
slogan.
Too revealing or something.
Yeah, sexy, appealing, but not too revealing.
Oh, it was just so douchey.
Dre let that go, man. Man, that's crazy.
That didn't really go anywhere, unsurprisingly. And I mean, Diddy. I mean, there were a number of times when it looked like his career was, totally over. I mean, even in the beginning, when in the early '90s, he was promoting this show this charity show at City College in Harlem. There was a stampede, and several people died.
Yeah,
I mean, he wasn't found criminally responsible or anything, and it really did seem it was just sort of like a mob mentality. People rushed in. There wasn't proper policing of the situation, but it was still, I mean, for a while it looked like it could have destroyed him very early, and this was even before Bad Boy and all that stuff took off.
That story shocked me. 9 people were trampled to death at a charity basketball game for AIDS research, for AIDS charities, and Puffy Diddy is there trying to like resuscitate people. I mean, that's got to be, I can't even imagine what that does to a person's mind. And to walk from that. And,
and he knew a lot of the people who died, and so I talked to people who were there, who were out there trying to resuscitate people with him on the floor, so it was, it almost destroyed his career before it started, but it also, it's quite an emotional burden as well. And he's able to overcome that. He's able to overcome the loss of Biggie. I mean, don't forget when he launched his solo career, the label didn't even want to give him a solo album. I mean, they were like, "What? You're a producer? You're the most you've ever done is sort of be like a backup dancer in videos." So, but he's one guy to never count out, But yeah, there are tons of failures with all these guys. I mean, Jay-Z, as a startup investor, invested in this private jet sharing startup that crashed and burned, no pun intended. So, but that's what's going to happen if you're an entrepreneur. You gotta, especially if you're an investor, you're gonna maybe fail 9 out of 10 times. But if that 1 out of 10 is a billion, is a Airbnb, then you're a billionaire.
Yep. Hey Zach, you've been so generous with your time. I have one more question. You have an art thread that weaves throughout the book. You open with it, you close with it, and there's particular focus on street art and graffiti, black artists' involvement in modern art. Explain why that art, and we're talking about like tangible art, painting, sculpture, etc., not their music. Why is that art important to emphasize when you're talking about these 3 kings?
Yeah, so for hip hop, it goes back to the 4 pillars of hip hop, which are sort of established by the founding fathers: Afrika Bambaataa, Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash. So people think of hip hop, they think of rap, but it's also, that's just one of the 4. There's also graffiti, there's b-boying, and and b-boying, breakdancing, and DJing. So it's there's 4 elements plus knowledge, which they added later. It's a key part, knowledge. But graffiti is one of those pillars. Graffiti, street art, the whole thing. It really pervades the history of hip hop when you think of it coming out of the South Bronx at this time when everything was kind of in ruins, and the whole city was like this canvas for everybody to express their sort of their frustration with their living conditions. And that's where you had guys like Fab Five Freddy, who did the cover art for the book, creating these like really colorful landscapes, and Jean-Michel Basquiat, and with his crowns, and sort of crowning themselves kings of this new movement that was bubbling up out of New York. And so the image of the crown and the journey of somebody like Fab Five Freddy or Jean-Michel Basquiat, from that kind of bombed out late 1970s New York landscape to the top of the art world, where you see somebody like Jean-Michel Basquiat selling his paint. I mean, the most expensive one went for over $100 million recently.
True.
He passed away at age 27, so this is all, after his death, but over $100 million for one painting. It's the most expensive piece of artwork sold by any American artist in history.
Incredible.
And, it's, I think, something like in the top 10 of any artwork. I mean, it goes more for, there are Picassos and Monets that have gone for less. So, I think it kind of, it mirrors the rise of Jay-Z, Diddy, and Dr. Dre, from these guys who had nothing to these guys who were billionaires, who were cultural influencers and tastemakers, and, not just in music, but across all these things, from art to fashion to spirits and, you name it.
And education. I think one of the coolest aspects of this whole story is seeing what Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine are doing, from a kid who grew up in the ghetto of Compton, California, to some of the stuff that's going on to rebuild that community and the buildings they've put in there for music and education. It's really cool to see, two guys able to do something that government programs are never really going to fully be able to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, and not just that, but I mean, they launched a school at USC that they spent tens of millions of dollars funding to teach the arts and especially in the digital age. So, these guys are also giving back with some of the wealth that they've accumulated.
Well, Zach, as Jay said, thank you so much for the time. It's Zack O'Malley Greenburg. Zach O'Malley Greenburg.
At Zogblog.
Yes. Three Kings, Diddy, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, and hip-hop's multi-billion-dollar rise. It's an absolute. We've
scratched the surface.
Yeah, there is so much more in this book. I know we've been talking forever, but there is a ton of cool stuff in here. People are going to love it and really get a unique behind-the-scenes look at how all this came to be. Thank you, Zach, so much for the time. We appreciate it, and continued success with the book.
Thanks, Zach.
All right, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Take care.
You too.
Fresh out of jail, California dreaming. Soon as I step on the scene, I'm hearing hoochie screaming, fiending for money and alcohol. The life of a West Side player with cowards die in a strong ball. Only in Cali will we riot, not rally, to live and die. In LA we wear chucks, not valleys. Yeah, that's right. Dressed in loafs and khaki suits and ride is what we do. Flossing but have caution, we collide with other crews, famous because we throw grams. Worldwide, let them recognize from Long Beach to Rosecrans. Bumping and grinding like a slow jam. It's West Side, so you know the road will bow down to no man. Say what you say, but give me that bomb beat from Dre. Let me serenade the streets of LA. From Oakland to Sacktown, the Bay Area and back down. Cali is where they put they Mac down. Give me love.
The Detroit Cast continues after this short break.
Hey, TDC listeners, this is Kelly from the Hamlin Pubs, inviting you to our 5 Metro Detroit locations. Come enjoy Hamlin Pub's great food, drinks, and atmosphere. Whether you're watching the game with your buddies, out for a meal with the family, or out for a great night with that special someone, it's always a great time at our Rochester, Clarkston, Chesterfield, and our 2 Shelby Township locations. Hamlin Pub also offers party packages. We are the perfect spot for that rehearsal dinner, graduation, birthdays, or other events. For more information about our locations, including live entertainment calendars, go to hamlinpubs.com. Hope to see you soon, Detroit Cast listeners.
The Detroit Cast continues now, bitches. Here are Mike and Jay.
All right, welcome back to the Detroit Cast. Powered by DealsOnTheD.com with Mike and Jay. Kind of excited. Tomorrow, Dave Landau's coming in the studio.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, comedian with quite a story.
Oh, yeah, lots of stories.
From what I understand, he's filled in with Anthony Cumia on his show, and he's done Artie Lang's show. Artie's?
Well, Cumia's.
Yeah, and Artie.
Yeah, I guess it's Cumia and Artie. He's filled in for Artie Lang before.
Gotcha.
When Artie has
when Artie's going through
personal
his
issues.
shit. Yeah. When he's got a family thing come up.
Right, exactly. Goes on vacation.
Bi-weekly.
So, yeah, he's apparently, I don't know, at one point got 13 DUIs.
13 arrests. I don't know if
arrests.
they're all,
Okay. Anyone that's got 13 arrests, it's like, but come on in. Absolutely. I need to hear the story.
I'd like to hear how all those went.
Yes, for
Hey,
sure.
before you go much further, Mike, we should mention the TDC bookstore, that fine book, 3 Kings, by Zack O'Malley Greenburg. is in our TDC bookstore. You'll find it under the Help the Show tab at DetroitCast.com. That's a great way to support us. If you're going to get the book, might as well get it through our Amazon link, which is right there in the bookstore. So.
Yes. And you know what? Check out mypillow.com, too. I went there the other day. I had no idea how much stuff they have.
Yeah, make sure you're using TDC code.
Yes,
There's
please.
a lot of codes out there that bounce around via their commercials and so forth, but it's got to be TDC for us to get really good credit. So please use that.
They take good care of us. So we went long with Zack O'Malley, Greenburg. But I did want to, so we'll get to email in just a second here, Jay, but I did want to show you one video. I don't know if you saw this. I believe it's out of Utah, Sardine Canyon.
Utah is on the mind today, Mike.
Yeah? Well, yeah. I did reference Utah a couple times. Not because of this, but did you see this this cop, Sergeant Cade Brenchley? Whew. Wearing a yellow vest, safety vest, so you can see him out there, and it got a little bit of snow.
It doesn't stop ice, does it?
No, ice is a real problem. And he gets smacked by a car.
Ragdoll, man. It's
Dude,
just...
This is one of those where when you're walking, it's like my biggest fear is that when you hear people that get like a head injury or something, and it's like, yeah, I was in the middle of a conversation with Jay, and then I woke up here. You know what I mean? And it's like you don't know what happened. Like you've got this gap where you just fell over, banged your head, and now you're just 4 for 4 for the rest of your life, And this cop's going to be okay. He got some broken ribs and whatnot, but pretty vicious. Because imagine being the driver of this other car just going, no. When you get that, when you hit that black ice and you're like,
and you see the cop and you're just like, oh my God, oh no, I'm going to hit him.
And even if you're honking your horn or yelling, there's nothing that anyone can do. At this point, it's probably better this way, but this cop's just like, I'm going to go help this stranded driver really quick, see what I can do to help. And then all of a sudden,
and here it comes.
Whoa.
Boom. Ragdolls it right into the side of the stopped car. Boom.
Dude, that's like running of the bulls type stuff when the bull just catches a guy and just sends him fucking flying.
Does he do several spins in the air? Is this like a triple Lindy?
Yeah, he does kind of like the divers do.
Like a barrel roll, kind of.
Yeah, like a barrel roll, not a 360. It would have been nice if he added a 360 in there.
If he could have tucked.
If he could have
the wherewithal to tuck in that moment.
If he could have done an initial tuck 360 and then gone into the barrel roll.
Barrel roll, head goes into the side of the car. That's pretty vicious. And then, of course, the motorist. Oh my God, is he dead? She runs over to see.
He got a couple broken ribs and a broken scapula. You just hate to hear that. The scapula being broken.
Yeah, I can't imagine the recovery.
Where's the scapula?
Scapula is this, man. The back, your shoulder blade. Dude, just imagine that breaking.
Oh.
Like, how uncomfortable, right? How are you ever going to find a comfortable spot?
Yeah.
To kind of allow that to...
It's like when you break a rib, man. There's like nothing they can do about it, so you're
Yeah.
just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, and breathing is hard, and
He doesn't fault the motorist at all. I saw some quote from him. He's like, what do I do? It's icy road.
Well, I don't know why that guy gets out of his car on that side of the car and then it's like, dude, you get in front of your car, get all the way to the right, and you...
I wonder if that was starkly against his training, honestly.
Yeah. Anytime I see a cop, like, you'll see him every once in a while in 696 or 75, and they're at the driver's side, they're on the side of the freeway, and they're at the driver's door, and you're like, dude, what are you... I know we're all supposed to go around, and you do your best, but, like, why are we putting ourselves in this position? I don't know. It's just But it seems like his training should have had him a little bit farther to the right.
Well, there must be a reason why you go to the driver door and not the passenger, probably from a safety standpoint.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
But in that instance, yeah, the iciness, you'd think you'd be looking back. You'd be
you'd be
definitely
very
on the
aware.
other side of the car.
I mean, the fact is you're going to deal with a motorist who's slid off the road.
Yeah.
You can see how slick and slushy it is, but
Speaking of cops, dude, looks like the Los Angeles Police Department has chimed in concerning Corey Feldman.
oh yeah,
They say, Officer Luis Garcia told USA Today an unknown person jabbed at Mr. Feldman's abdomen with an unknown object, but no lacerations or other injuries were found. Feldman drove himself to the local West Valley Hospital where he was treated and released. Police do not have a subject or weapon description.
treated for what? And if
Tongue depressor? I mean,
yeah, he's feeling a little under the weather. I wondered why at 3 a.m, with the cops coming to his house, why he would end up driving himself to the hospital. it seems if there was any broken skin at all, they would go, well, just precautionary measure. We're going to get the ambulance here. And we'll.
Yeah, I fear for Mr. Feldman's mental health.
Yeah. Damn fucking Wolfgangs, whatever they are. Wolfpack. Damn. Dude, honestly, if the Wolfpack wanted to kill him, if this Wolfpack existed, why would they be using some weird fucking stabby object?
That doesn't create a laceration.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they just have a gun and be like, oh,
you're it. I mean, what?
Why would they just have a gun and just be like, boom, done?
That's really annoying, though, right under the ribs when you get poked.
Ah! Yeah, that is annoying.
And you sneak up on somebody. Pah!
Yeah, but if you want it to be serious, you got to break the skin.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Hey, insurance. Hey, we all need it. Most of us don't know what kind of coverage we have or
I gotta
who
be honest
provides
with you,
it.
Jay.
Let fellow TDC listener Brent Wasick from Wasick Insurance Services change all of that. Brent has over 30 years in the business. He offers all types of insurance coverage, auto, home, health, life, business, commercial, and more. Call Brent Wasick at 734-455-1900 and get a free, no-obligation quote today. Again, that's 734-455-1900. Ask for Brent Wasick at Wasick Insurance.
How are we doing for email, Jay?
I do have some email, Mike.
What do
Before
we
we
got?
get to email proper, I'd like to engage in the reading of post, if I may.
For
It's
fuck's-
from Manila, dude. It's not every day we get a post from Manila.
All right.
Fellas, here's a card from Manila where even Big E could probably get laid.
Do they make envelopes there?
I wondered. Fun fact, the most popular sport in Manila is basketball. That's crazy.
Yeah, aren't they
I would have guessed like
just
badminton
wisps
or
of
something.
guys
yeah.
in Manila? Yeah.
This is amusing as most of the population seem to be about 5 feet tall, muses Mike. Dream big, I guess. Keep up the good work. Bye for now, BUY Mike. The Manila, Philippines, yeah.
Let me see it.
Some beautiful cityscapes and so forth.
Sure.
Manila looks like a beautiful place to visit.
Sure.
If you'd like to email into the show, write into the show, please email us at email@detroitcast.com, like Brian did. Brian writes in concerning E's phone. Hey, Tard, why wouldn't you log into iCloud and use the Find My iPhone feature to locate your phone?
Oh,
Gives you an
boom.
exact location.
Boom.
Also allows you
You
to
have to
remotely wipe the phone in case you were concerned about all of your dick pics ending up in a Bing search. Brian.
I know. I don't think I didn't set it up. I guess I think you gotta set that up. I'm assuming, and I didn't do that, so I know.
I asked him, why didn't you just go to the drugstore on the corner and buy a burner for $20? Buy $20 worth of minutes, $20 worth of a phone, and then at least you have a phone on you. Because remember, it was like, oh, thank God there were 2 people there. I could be one at all times.
I don't
get
know.
me wherever.
I know what you're saying. I still don't know if I would have done it. I don't know, because the service would have been
Just let it
garbage
go.
on it. No, the service would have been garbage on it. I did have people.
Why would you say that?
Because the service already in that area, when you're in these festivals, is terrible. I assume that some $20 thing from Walmart or Rite Aid wouldn't be that good. I don't know.
You didn't think of it.
Yeah.
No, I had some people mention it. I just didn't want to do it.
You did say you didn't think about it to me yesterday, and now
Oh.
you're.
Now that people mention
Okay,
it.
you know what?
And
I
now
did,
that
Is
you
it possible
think about
that
it,
people mentioned it, but he didn't think about it? No.
No. Well,
I don't. I would say this. Okay, you're right. I don't know if I remember. I think they said. I think someone said, "Why don't you buy a phone?" I decided, and I think my thought was that I either had to go. Hold on, my new.
Hold on.
No,
when
no.
I brought this up, you said, "Yeah, I probably should have done that, but I didn't think about that."
No, I don't think
Which
that
is fun. Yes, you did.
No, I don't
Liar.
think that's. Well,
This supports
And then-
your statement yesterday that he's a liar.
And now he's trying to pose that not only did I think about it, I thought about it so much, I decided personally
I
that
had a
that's not what
reason
I'm
why
saying.
I didn't
Not
go
what I'm
get it.
saying.
the reason
Not
why
what
I
I
did
said.
it was because I just assumed that
Not
it
what
was
I said.
Perception.
the coverage was going to be so poor.
not what I said. I said.
it is.
I think
We
that was
could
an
rewind it.
afterthought. I
15,
don't know. It doesn't
15,
even
15,
matter.
15.
It doesn't matter. You know, I would
Hear
have
the
done
whole
it anyway.
conversation.
Whether I had thought about it,
15,
whether you had
15,
told
15.
me, whether you had told me, whether I'd thought about it, whether someone had told me, I wouldn't have done it. I would not have paid $20 for a burner phone, whether someone had told me or not. So it's really irrelevant.
You want to stop the bleeding, dude? You told us how the next 3 days it was awful, right?
A shitty phone
it
that I
really,
just
it really screwed up your whole weekend, the whole festival.
No. A shitty $20 phone just for texting and phone purposes would not have made it any different to me.
Did you get your car back, Ezus?
Yeah, finally, yes.
How much?
$250.
Oh, Ezus. I know. You know, it's a damn good thing that Mrs. Fady was in on that decision. Hi,
Yeah.
Mrs. Fady, by the way.
Hi, Mr.
Right? Because that would have not been good in the Fady household.
Well, the Fady household has really sided with Eric on this one. He was telling me his dad was like, "Look, you're a tard, but this should have been.
It was a frugal move, right? Which
Yeah.
the Fadies can respect.
Right, my
They respect
dad.
the
So
shit
Mike's
out of
like,
it.
I know what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
Trying to save a buck. I like that.
My dad likes saving a buck as much as anybody I know.
He saw it as a victimless crime, as it was.
I mean, my car was way in the back.
Yeah.
Not, the tags are not like they're old tags. It's not like
Why
there's
wouldn't you just park it at my house or something?
You know what, dude? That was original plan. That was the original plan. Then we got out earlier than in a rare, weird situation. We got out way earlier than expected, like an hour earlier. So I had enough time to technically go home, get a nicer meal, not eat some crap food at the airport. And
I said a meal.
But that led to the fact that, I don't want to drive all the way to Franklin, then to the airport, because it'd be easier just to go to Novi.
Yeah.
So
Boy, I bet you regret that choice, because
yes,
$250.
I do. I do regret that choice.
Yeah.
You're right.
You live and you learn, right, Isis?
Sure.
That's what it's all about.
It's
You're
really
trying to be better the
irrelevant.
next day than the day before.
It's really irrelevant, because I would have called the cops the first night and just said, "There's a strange car.
There's a goddamn car with a Huey Lewis sticker on
and
it.
it needs to go. I don't know whose it is. Can we get this piece of shit towed out of
It's
here?"
like a homeless person's living out of it.
Yeah. And so the same thing would have happened, except it would have been much more expensive, because it would have spent a
Franklin.
full 4 days in Franklin's impound lot. So you probably made the right decision, E.
Sure.
John writes, and I have a grievance. Don't even start the clock. It takes a few seconds, and you will be yelling bona fide. My phone autocorrects words I don't want changed/corrected, but then leaves the obvious simple ones. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Haven't we grieved that, though?
I feel like it's such an obvious grievance
Did
that we
John
have.
steal the grievance? Is this a stolen grievance?
Well, it's bona fide if it hasn't been touched on, but I don't know if we've even bothered putting this to a clock.
It's almost such
I
low-hanging
mean, everybody knows that nobody likes. Yeah, how many times have said "fuck duck"? How many times shit
fruit.
shot?
Dude,
Right.
oh,
I mean,
shit. If I can just say shit
Yes.
via text.
Hell.
Please, Apple, if you can just fix
Who
that.
are
If I
they
can
to be
just
the-
say shit.
who are they
And
to
I
be
know
the
I can
moral
go in and
compass?
change it. I don't want to, though.
no one wants to. Nobody wants to.
No, it's the when someone's like, "Hey, you want to go to this blah blah," it's like, "Hell yeah," and instead I write "heel yeah."
Yeah.
It wants to apostrophize hell, and it's like, God damn it. The other one is
This guy's full of shot.
yeah.
We have
The one
talked about this
the one
before.
that gets me though is I don't like doing through as in THROUGH. It's like just give THRU. It's simple. On it every fucking time writes they. They. Through. They. No. They. No. Through.
Mine's doing a weird thing where it's doing all caps when I try people's names. So it looks like I'm screaming at them, like certain names, like Matt and I forget who else, but I'll do it, and I'm like, why is it? Why? Why would it do that?
I have one guy in my phone under his name is TJ, just TJ, capital T, capital J. Every time I hit 2, it corrects a capital T, capital J, and at the back. And the problem is that's such a one that would make no sense in the sentence that I have to fucking back up.
Well, maybe
and
your
make
new
it
phone
2.
won't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
When's Mrs. Fady getting you a new phone?
It's coming tomorrow.
Oh, good.
The ones that also piss me off, and we've talked about this before, are the ones where I'm close enough to the fucking word I'm trying to spell,
Dude.
that you should figure this out.
And it's so beyond any other word. And
yeah,
nothing-
tomorrow, restaurant.
Right.
And
Right.
you're like, dude,
You know?
really, asshole? You can't figure out I'm trying to write restaurant right now, and you're just like, bah, I don't know what this
Yeah.
is. I got no idea.
Yeah, it's starting with an R-E-A-S.
All I
I
can
don't
do
know.
is red underline it because I don't know what you're trying to say here. It's like, ugh.
Started with a whaty?
R-E-A, I don't know, whatever.
R-E-A.
R-E-S-T. I always spell restaurant wrong because I just spell it like R-E-S-T, R-A-U-N-T, and I know that's wrong. But I do think that's enough that Google. I think they should know it based on that. I'm sorry. I don't. What other word would that be?
Rest?
Rest?
Rest
Wrong.
area.
I think they should know it. Although I think I finally learned how to spell it, although I can't think of it right now.
No.
I have to type it out, I guess.
You got it, E. You got it. We'll save the rest for tomorrow. E does not
Very
have
good.
it.
Very good.
We look forward to Dave Landau tomorrow.
Yeah, that should be fun, man. That should be really fun. I'm in a laughing mood, so hopefully he comes and brings some good stories for us.
That's good news.
Thanks again to Zack O'Malley Greenburg for
O'Malley
coming on the show hard today.
Yeah, he did.
He really did with his book, 3 Kings. As Jay said, it's in our bookstore. If you click on it, you can listen to the interview, or you can order the book, and it will automatically go through our Amazon link. It's great. It'll make a great gift for someone. We're sure you'll enjoy it.
We scratched the surface of it. We really did.
Yeah, there's a lot more in
bunch
there.
of cool stories about acquisitions, the vitamin water thing.
Yeah.
Influential guys at Coca-Cola Sprite who brought hip hop
Yeah.
into the fold and changed the world that way. Streaming companies, Diddy and Jay-Z's Jay-Z's title, all that stuff. It's broken down in a ton of detail, and it's really interesting.
Yeah. So go get yourself that, and we'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you guys then.
You've been listening to the Detroit Cast with your hosts, Mike and Jay. From all of us at Radio for One Studios, thank you for listening. And as always, thank you, Detroit.
Listen to